All right, guys, I know this is not the normal video that I do, but I just couldn't stand it anymore. So I'm sure you all have heard of the Mandela Effect. Well, there's one in particular about the movie Kazam, and I know exactly why there's so much confusion surrounding this movie. And it's like, I feel like I'm the only person in the world who knows this, and I just cannot stand it anymore. So let me tell you my story. So I get a call in 2019 from my brother. He calls me up. I'm driving home from work. I know it's 2019 because it was pre-COVID. And he says, "Hey, do you remember that show where all the food is falling from the sky and there's a genie that grants wishes?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, yeah. I remember. I used to like that show." And he said, "What's the name of that show?" And I said, was it Shazam?" And he's like, "No, it's Kazam." And I said, "Oh, maybe." I was like, "It's kind of a stupid name, but yeah, maybe. Okay." And he says, "Well, who starred in it? The main actor kid." And I said, "I would say Jonathan Taylor Thomas, but I think it was actually just some guy that looked like Jonathan Taylor Thomas." And he gives me some name of who the actor was, and it's just some nobody. And I was like, "Okay, probably." Then he asked me this. He says, "Who played the genie?" And I said, well, I'm not sure. I thought it was Shaq, but maybe it's Sinbad." He's like, "What do you mean?" So I proceed to tell him this story. So when I was a kid, and my favorite thing to do was to record the Friday night Disney Channel movie. Okay, so every Friday night, the Disney Channel would show some movie. Usually it was a Disney Channel original, but occasionally they would show a non Disney movie. And I was really poor, and so my favorite thing to do was to record these on my VCR. And yes, I'm that old. Okay, so every Friday I got my VCR out to record this movie. Well, after every show leading up to Friday, they would announce whatever the movie was that Friday. So, like, you get done watching, say, Lizzie McGuire, and they would say, "Tune in 6 o'clock Central Time for Luck of the Irish," something like that. Well, one week it was the movie Kazam. Now, I honestly don't remember if they said Shazam or Kazam. I'm not sure about that. We'll assume they said Kazam. So, after every show, they are like, "Tune in 6 o'clock Central Time for the movie Kazam, starring Sinbad." And I was like, "That's weird. I thought it was Shaq." And the only reason I even knew who Shaq was because of this movie. Like, I didn't know who he was prior to this movie because I hate sports. I don't even think I've ever seen Shaq play. The only reason I even knew he was a basketball star who starred in this movie was because of this movie. Okay, so I didn't know who he was, and I didn't know who Sinbad was. And I was like, "Sinbad, who's that?" I was like, "I thought it was Shaq." And all week I was actually pretty curious about what who this Sinbad person is. And they announced this after like every show for a week solid. Okay. "Tune in 6 o'clock Central Time for this a Kazam starring Sinbad." So finally, Friday rolls around and I get ready to record it, and I'm a little curious to see who this person is. And it doesn't play. It never played. And I remember thinking, that's really weird. And I thought maybe they would explain why they couldn't play it or something. Nothing. It was like everything that they had said all week long just didn't happen. It was the weirdest thing. It was some random movie. I don't even remember what the movie was, but I just remember it wasn't this one that they had announced for like a week solid. And I was confused about who was in it. And I was dying to figure out what this weird thing going on was. They never played it. And that stuck with me because of how weird it was. So I proceed to tell my brother this story. And then he proceeds to tell me about this Mandela effect, that we're living in some alternate reality, which I think is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Okay, we're not living in an alternate reality, but I definitely think people can misremember things. And just throwing this out there, one thing they have found is the memory is very pliable. The memory can be altered. The memory itself is not very reliable, and they've found that if you can alter a person's memory, they are more susceptible to be altered in the future. The easier it is to change their memory over time. Now, maybe this was just some weird thing that happened, but I gotta tell you, I really do feel like it's some creepy social experiment to see how much they can change about what we remember. It's pretty disturbing. I can't speak on any of the other Mandela effects. Some of them I think are just people misremembering things. some things I think can be easily explained away. But that one is weird, and I know where it comes from, and I'm the only one that remembers, and I have no way to prove it. Like, it wasn't even on a commercial or a show. It was literally the thing that was announced at the end of a show in these credits. So that's what I've been up to at 3 o'clock in the morning, thinking about this. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. You can like, comment, and subscribe. This is not my normal type of video, but like and subscribe anyway.